Let me explain. Even though I don't like to talk about it, I, 25, was involved in an auto accident. I was the one driving and lost my dad who was with me at the time. I had untreated post-traumatic stress disorder for nearly a year. I couldn't speak about it to anyone. My sister got me in therapy 2 months ago because she said that I needed it. This is our first holiday without Dad, and I wasn't intending on doing anything this year, but the family decided to come and spend time with me. My aunt, my cousin and her kids, my sister and my brother-in-law, and my mom. My brother-in-law started bringing up the accident in detail exactly the way I describe it, like he heard it from me, the number of sessions I've attended so far. Brought up the name of my therapist and asked if he's the one I've been seeing. Then he started asking me how I'm doing, if my therapy sessions are benefiting me or not, and telling the exact time I got into therapy. And then casually said that I shouldn't tell people that I feel responsible for what happened, implying that I told my therapist that. I was taken aback. I asked how he knew all that. My sister said she didn't tell him and I didn't tell anyone. My brother-in-law looked confused when he noticed how upset I was and said that it was a coincidence the therapist happens to be one of his friend's brothers. He's known my therapist for 5 years, and that's how he knew, since his friend said my name sounded familiar. I was shocked. Everyone was looking at me, and my aunt started talking about me, telling everyone about the accident. I was so infuriated I found myself lashing out at my brother-in-law, and he started talking about how I need to deal my anger issues, disregarding that he told the entire family about my sessions. After arguing with him and listening to him blaming me for how I reacted, I ended up telling him to leave. My sister sided with him, then they both left. My aunt offended him and said that I shouldn't have yelled at him and hurt my sister's feelings. That he was just worried about me. I was so mad, especially when they all started guilt-tripping me and berating me for what I did. I sent my therapist an email telling him what happened after I couldn't get a hold of him, and mentioned that I will be reporting him and file a complaint against him for disclosing information without my consent. So far I haven't heard from him, and what bothers me is that I'm not close with those people, and hearing them gossip about me like that is not okay. My brother-in-law has always been like this, but it never occurred to me that he'd do this. The family said I ruined dinner for them and that I overreacted and was lashing out at everyone for no reason. I feel terrible. They said they gathered to comfort me and I caused a scene. Not the idiot. Your therapist definitely should be reported and hopefully lose their license. Therapists should never be sharing their clients' names, much less going into detail about what the clients are sharing with them. The people who ruined dinner are the people who decided to spend time with you and then did not stop your brother-in-law from deciding to share what is going on with your therapy to the rest of your family. You rightfully wish that your privacy be valued, but he couldn't be bothered to show you that respect. As a mental health professional myself, yeah, you're within your rights to report. I legally cannot confirm or deny if someone is my client without written consent from them. It breaks Health Insurance Portability and Accountability Act. We're trained on this, the therapist should know better. It honestly makes me mad because this is why people avoid therapy. I'm guessing after this you'll have some trust issues about going at all. Who wants to worry about their therapist gossiping about them with friends? It's messed up. Not the idiot, you were right to throw that idiot out. Not only did he air your private conversations with your therapist, but he also repeated it to your family. What an idiot. You're also right to report this therapist. That is so unprofessional. Grief is very personal, and you are dealing with that on top of the shock of your brother-in-law's crap move. Losing it like that is understandable. Your family is also grieving, so I hope after a cooling off period they will realize that they were wrong to berate you for being upset. I, 26, was in a cafe recently doing my work. Restrictions have loosened so it's allowed, and I was using my phone to scroll through social media. I was holding my phone upright because I have bad posture, so I slouch like turtle, and was minding my own business when this lady comes up and tells me to stop taking pictures of her. I wasn't. I told her I wasn't but apologized if it seemed that way and explained I was using my Instagram. She insisted that I was and demanded my phone to prove that I didn't have any photos of her. This may have been the part where I was an idiot. I told her no, and she said that if I hadn't taken any pictures of her I wouldn't mind. I told her it a total invasion of privacy, but if she still had an issue, I don't mind showing her my gallery in the presence of the cafe's manager. She then started to scream at me, claiming I'm stalling to delete the photos of her, but I stood my ground and refused to let her have my phone. Long story short, the manager of the cafe got involved and told her to leave. Her date, who had been sitting there the entire time, called me an idiot and left with her. My other friend, who was with me, told me I was the idiot cause I should have given her my phone to shut her up and avoid a scene. My reasoning was I don't know her, so I don't know what she's doing with my phone, and I had offered her a peaceful compromise, get the manager involved, so there's a third-party witness, which she rejected. So here I am, asking you guys if I'm the idiot. Edit. I wanted a third party, the manager, to be involved because I didn't want her aggression to escalate and result in her snatching my phone or eventual screaming or more accusations. I did not involve the manager in the end. Her screaming did. The private photos on my phone are not nudes. It's office documents that my boss is alright with me keeping photos of, but not sharing out in public. There's a lot of incidences in my area where people steal phones using similar ruses. So I didn't want to risk it, plus COVID. The cafe I was in actually had a notice that said that they had in-house photographers, would be taking pictures for their social media page. I did not intentionally point my camera at anyone. I had been looking downwards at my laptop, so my neck decided on its own to go into the turtle position, so my phone ended up upright. I try to consciously tell myself to point it downwards, but I'm human. I understand the concern a lady would have. I've also been on the receiving end of creeps with phones. That's why I offered to show her with a third party present. I also wanted a witness to confirm I did show my gallery, and there was nothing there. Not the idiot. She asked, you said you didn't do it, end of conversation. I had a similar situation where someone in my neighborhood saw me snapping a picture of a house across the street from her and ran out to ask me why. I showed her the picture because there was an enormous amount of bird crap on a window ledge I was going to let the owner know about. She asked to see the picture and I showed her and thanked her for watching out for her neighbor's house. Difference in these two stories is she made a reasonable request and your confronter did not. Not the idiot is actually a common scam to get hold of someone's phone saying they need to text someone and their battery died. Then they open up your apps and see if you have anything like Venmo or PayPal or Cash App or some bank apps. Then they send themselves your money and you lose since you didn't keep your account secure and it looks like it came from your phone. I don't let anyone touch my phone that I don't know since I have work stuff and so much of my life on my phone. Not the idiot, you are definitely in the right. Although as a woman myself, it has happened in the past that men took pictures of me in public. One time for example a man took a picture of me on the subway with a flash one. Everybody saw what happened. And it made me extremely uncomfortable and I felt very much violated. Now I wouldn't react like the women. But if she really thought that's what happened, I can understand that she would be angry. Still, she should not have acted the way she did. But I understand the frustration and the helplessness she must have felt in that moment. My ex's wedding was in February. And like you could guess, I wasn't personally invited, nor was I told anything about it from him, even though we spoke daily. Well, I found out about it from his grandmother, we're close, and she suggested I gate crash, and that she would cover for me, think she doesn't like the bride. I was interested in going, because I wanted to find some closure, since we had broken up rather quickly a few months before, and I still wasn't over him. So I said yes. The day came and his grandmother snuck me in and we watched the ceremony. It was beautiful. I shed a few tears, but it really solidified things. I was ready to leave afterwards, but his grandmother pushed me to go to the reception as well and sit next to her at the family table. Pretty awkward, but I went. I was still mingling with the family, standing up, when the bride and groom came. They came and greeted and she congratulated me on the pregnancy. I thanked her and said something about how I couldn't wait to co-parent with the two of them. Turns out that she didn't know that I was pregnant, 5 months at the time, with his child the whole time. She lost her crap and ran out. He tried to run after her, but then her dad came and started a scene. Lucky for me, my ex's brother came and helped get me out of there as soon as possible. My ex still asks for updates, but I recently heard from his grandmother they broke up and got an annulment. The bride weirdly still follows me and comments and likes my pictures, so I think she's fine with me, but still, am I the idiot? We dated for 3 years before he got into his relationship with her and then rekindled things during their break, which they both had partners. Everyone's the idiot here. Everyone but the bride is complicit in this one, and even she needs to accept some responsibility for accepting a marriage proposal in such a short time frame. Was the ex ever gonna tell his new bride about his, then unborn, child? What the hell, grandma, how did you ever think this was going to be a good idea? OP, are you that easily influenced to just go along with whatever grandma tells you to do? Jesus, what a mess. You're the idiot, what the hell? You don't go to a wedding you weren't invited to for any reason. Totally not cool. And going to the reception is also so not cool. What the hell? Now your ex is an idiot for not telling his wife. But that doesn't mean you're not an idiot. Edit. Everyone's the idiot because his grandmother is also horrible for undermining his relationship and telling you to come when she knew full well you weren't invited. Basically, poor bride, everyone around her is an idiot. Everyone's the idiot here except the bride. At what point do you put the boundary in with your ex and ask if his fiancé knows that you're pregnant with his child? If you wanted to co-parent, that should have been discussed, and if he wasn't going to do it, you should have. Also, I'm assuming he was with you both when you conceived. That's on him. He should not have cheated. Either way, it's cheating. There's a reason you didn't crack and invite OP. Because you weren't invited. This isn't about you or grandma, but to other people, and you ruined someone's wedding. I, 27, am currently 3 months pregnant, and in my family, it is tradition that a baby shower is thrown at 3 months, so me and my husband, 29, are getting ready to throw a baby shower for me. The thing is that I don't really want my sister-in-law to come because plenty of times in the past, she made a show about her infertility issues. When I first announced that I was pregnant during a family dinner at his side, everything was fine. I was aware of sister-in-law's personal issue, but I didn't think that it required me to go speak to her privately or anything. When his relatives started to ask about baby gender and such, she burst out crying and started to talk about how she wanted a child but couldn't have one, etc. I felt so bad, but my husband assured me that it wasn't my fault and that it was just a rough moment for her. I understood and always tried to not mention my pregnancy around her. But then it was like the moment that anyone asked how's the kicker or congrats on the baby, she would suddenly burst into tears again. I felt bad for thinking like this at first, but I noticed a pattern where she would be perfectly fine with a single person asking me about baby names, but as soon as more people started to ask things, she suddenly felt off. Because of this, I had a talk with my husband and explained that I don't think it would be a good idea to invite sister-in-law to the baby shower and how she always had a show when there was a bunch of people. Husband said he understood but that I should talk to sister-in-law first. A few days I asked sister-in-law if I could talk to her in person, and we met up in a cafe, and I explained my concerns by saying I know your fertility is a really sensitive issue, and I'm going to have a baby shower soon, and you always get uncomfortable and cry, and I don't think it's a good idea you come, since you always cry at the end. She got angry and blew up at me saying that I was being a pregnant idiot and that I was being an insensitive idiot. I tried to explain that I meant no harm, but she cursed me off and has now told the family, her side, what happened. I felt freaking awful. They're not mad at me, but think I should just apologize to sister-in-law and stop talking about my pregnancy around her and should have a different idea than a baby shower. The thing is that I don't mind apologizing. I didn't mean to make her feel bad, but I don't want my change my baby shower to another kind of event. Am I the idiot? Not the idiot. You've been perfectly understanding and respectful about her issues. She lives in a world where people are going to have kids, and those people shouldn't have to stifle their joy because she can't deal with her own emotions. It's you now, but odds are you're not the last in this entire family to have a kid. Is she going to expect every child in the family to be born without any celebration of the child? What happens when the baby is celebrating its 1-year birthday? When you want to post about its first steps on your social media account? Not the idiot. I mean, this is a completely obvious judgment. It is perfectly understandable that your sister-in-law is having a hard time with this, but she has no call to get mad at you about it, especially for trying to be sensitive to her feelings, and the idea that you should change the entire event is ridiculous. Your sister-in-law needs someone to talk to about a painful part of her life, not more of you trying to account for her feelings. It is not realistic for her to avoid all signs of pregnancy and babies forever. Everyone's the idiot here. You're not being pregnant at her. You're just pregnant and that's awesome for you. It's very sad that it reminds her of her own inability to have children, but that isn't your fault. You didn't make her infertile and your pregnancy isn't to spite her. But it was really rude of you to tell her you didn't want her there. You should have told her you understood if she wouldn't want to go because you know that seeing pregnant people is so difficult for her. She needs therapy to deal with her grief and distress rather than blaming you. My daughter has one son. He is 15. She had a change of heart about being married to my grandson's father in 2018, who by all accounts is a hard-working, humble man. She wanted a lifestyle change. Enter her new husband, an unemployed actor with 2 children. He is irresponsible, shady, not trustworthy. I have caught him rummaging in my grandson's room in my home with no excuse as to why. There are other things too that make me distrust him. I have a lot of anger surrounding my daughter's choice, which in my opinion was motivated by selfishness. She took off and left my grandson with me and my wife, while she went out of state for weeks on end throughout the past year to visit her partner, and my grandson's grades, happiness, and health have all taken an enormous knock. He has lost weight, misses his mother and father, is lonely and anxious. She doesn't call him or care about him anymore. My wife and I have purchased some property with the intention of gifting it to my grandson when he turns 18. We have also gifted from our savings into a new bank account in my wife's name for the moment, a helpful amount that he will be able to use for college. The only reason my daughter is aware of this is because the purchase of the property was not something we were exactly able to keep secret. I decided to be upfront and tell her if she doesn't want to be a mom, her own mother and I will do right by our grandson. My daughter has threatened to estrange herself from my wife and I because we are showing favoritism to my grandson. She came to our home yelling and screaming and asked, "Do you even give a crap about the stepkids?" I told her those other 2 children aren't my responsibility, nor do I give a crap about them. They have a mother who they live with. My grandson isn't welcome at his mom's house because his new stepfather makes him uncomfortable, and she certainly isn't putting him first. My wife is usually on my side and thinks that I was right to tell her daughter the truth, but she thinks I should have been diplomatic. I think she deserved to hear the honest truth. If I can make a suggestion, see if your grandson wants to talk to a therapist about this. Teenage years are a difficult transition in the best of circumstances. From what you've offered, it does appear that he's struggling. Maybe both his parents would be interested, likely the father would try. Only if the kiddo is interested though, a neutral party to listen could help him unpack what he's going through. Not trying to suggest you and your wife aren't doing enough or right by him. You are clearly not the idiot here. Not the idiot. You don't have a relationship with these kids, it doesn't even sound like your grandson does, and that probably won't ever change. They have grandparents of their own to fawn over them. They will be fine. Your duty is to your grandson, not people who are more or less strangers. Maybe you could have been more diplomatic, sure, but with some people and situations, you have to be blunt. I think this was one of those situations. It's not as if the step-siblings were in the room. What a tricky situation, and I hope everything works out okay. Not the idiot, you have zero responsibility to the step-sibling. Personally, I won't give a single cent to them in your shoes, unless of course they are decent kids and have close relationships with you and you chose to. In fact, I would make double sure your daughter or stepfather can't get their hand on it, hence the threat, because they want the money themselves in my opinion. And if any member or family member threatened to estrange themselves as a leverage to me, I would cut them out of my life right there, right then. Because they clearly don't care about you.